This meeting to order, and apologize. We were trying to wait on another board member to make it, but she'll just have to join us. So first item is the roll call. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Dr. Bofi?
Yes.
Present. Mr. Davis?
Present.
Ms. Edmonston?
Present.
Mr. Garvey? Not in attendance. Ms. Holloway?
Here.
Dr. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Lewis is in attendance. Ms. Orange Jones? Not in attendance. Mr. Rock?
Here.
Dr. Thomason?
Present.
Ms. Vaucher?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. May we stand for the prayer and pledge. The prayer this morning will be led by Chrissy Dupuy from the Baton Rouge leadership class, and the pledge will be led by Ms. Juanita Hall from APEL, Lafayette Parish Schools.
Heavenly Father, we pray that you will give us your gift of knowledge, that we might always make the best decisions for the good of all the school children in Louisiana. We pray that you give us the wisdom to know and define our tasks, the strength to build and refine our educational goals, and the courage to persevere as necessary. We ask for your direction that we might make unselfish decisions for those we serve. We pray that all who are assembled here have a safe journey home. We thank you for your past and future blessings. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning, beautiful people. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is approval of the agenda. May we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So who gave the first one?
Dr. Bofi.
Dr. Bofi gave, okay, and the second by Mr. Rock. All right. Next item, any objection to the item, by the way? Okay. Next item then is the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion?
Yes.
Okay. I got Ms. Holloway making the motion and Ms. Vaucher seconding it. Any objection to the motion? Any discussion of the item? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item, please.
Next item is report by the State Superintendent of Education.
Thank you. Thank you, members. In the next month, you'll begin to see the release of results from this school year and last school year publicly on a number of fronts. And as you know, we kind of go through this May to August cycle of releasing annual outcomes. You will see high school graduation in the next month and really in the next couple of weeks. You will see figures released related to the credentialing rates, meaning industry credentials, advanced placement, dual enrollment, CLEPs, and so on. We will also release TOPS attainment and TOPS Tech attainment from past years, as well as college entrance. And I think you'll see from what look to be very interesting and compelling numbers related to all of those issues. So we will make sure that you are briefed and you have information related to what's going on in your district prior to public release. And I look forward to dialogue with you about all of those issues. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next item.
I have, excuse me, Superintendent White, can you give us a status on the SSD superintendent timeline? Because I know you're working on a contract. And can you give us any update on where we are with that?
Sure. And unfortunately, I was in appropriations yesterday morning when the SSD presentation. I don't know if I haven't caught up with Ms. Wong and whether or not she presented on that issue or not. But
no, she has.
I take the answer as no.
Yes.
We have engaged a search firm. That work has already commenced. The search firm is called Project 54. They're education specialists. They work specifically to build diverse pools of educator talent. We believe that we will have a pool built by some point in June, and we'll be able to make a decision thereafter. I want to just continue to emphasize that we did a nationwide search last year. Our pool was extremely thin, largely, I think frankly, largely because of the contentious nature of the discussion. A lot of in-state people who are very qualified decided not to pursue the job. And ultimately, it proved very hard to get somebody from out of state, to move halfway across the country to take the job. So I'm not saying that to set expectations low so much as I am to be candid with you that I think that a robust pool is going to be very, very hard to build. This is a very specialized area. The interim superintendent has a specialty in students with emotional disabilities. I think it's going to be challenging to find somebody with a background that is specific to students with low incidence disabilities that has the capacities to take on a job like this. But I'm optimistic, and I'm glad that we hired a search firm. Doing it on our own did not work the first time.
So is the position posted at this point?
I believe it has been posted, yes.
Can you find out for sure? Because we are getting some talk from people from within about the position, so of when to apply.
Sure.
Also,
so Ryan, if we can make sure that
I'd like
posted.
to know the deadline. What is the deadline on that timeline?
Sure, and we can, in fact, you know what, actually, let me respond to that. The job has been posted. Sorry, I should have said that. The job actually has never not been posted, and there's no deadline. It's on a rolling basis. That job has been posted for probably a year now.
But we haven't really signed a contract with the firm that's going to be doing the search.
Right, we just engaged
Where
the search
exactly is it posted?
There's on the department's website. There's a place for job postings.
Civil service.
Yeah, civil service.
Okay. Okay, and the end date for the interim superintendent is June 8th?
His June 6th.
June 6th. So at that point, he is no longer in that position. So we just want to know the timeline. Is there an overlap in regards to the new superintendent replacing the interim?
I think it'll be very hard to have somebody, on this timeline hired and replace an interim superintendent on that timeline. Meaning you may have a vacant position.
Okay, so if it's posted, can someone apply now and begin the interview process with your department? I'm just kind of like wondering.
Yes, I mean it's open. Our office, our human resource office, is building the pool. So if somebody applies now, we can put them in the process. There's a obviously you want to build the most robust pool you can, but anybody who applies now is going to get considered in the process. Yeah.
Sandy, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I'm fine.
Okay. I was just wondering, June 6th rolls around and there's no one in the position. Are we going to have no one as interim superintendent or superintendent?
I'll want to consult with the board around that time if that's what's coming to pass, and I'll make sure you're in the discussion. Obviously, somebody will have to be running the day-to-day of that environment. And remember, you've got a bunch of different divisions. You've got the special schools, LSD, LSVI, SEC, and then you've got all the programs within the LDH environments, and then you've got all the programs within the OJJ environments. Now, you could imagine for a time just having the individuals who manage those programs. But there does need to be somebody in charge. Now, there are assistant superintendents within that organization who are capable of doing that. So, I think let's see where the pool shapes up. The job is posted, and let's keep each other close, and we'll arrive at a sensible decision as to how to handle a gap.
Okay, and just as a follow-up, and I realize to Ms. Holloway's question and discussion, the search firm is going to help create a pool, hopefully. Is there an ending date for that pool, I think is what she's getting at, an ending date for that pool to be created, at which point someone will begin interviewing and to make decisions? We're
going to do it on a rolling basis. And the reason is that unlike a conventional superintendent search where you can, I think, be pretty confident that there's a pool of certified people out there, I am not as confident in this case. And I wouldn't want to make someone wait months for a pool to be built just to get them in the queue. So rather than locking us into a timeline, we're just going to do it on a rolling basis.
So if you find someone initially, then you would just stop the process and recommend that particular person?
Yes, absolutely. Right. Yeah. Let me also just say that my biggest concern in all of this is that positive things that are happening within the SSD get slowed. We've established an MOU with OJJ for the first time. We have 3 ESSA plans approved with OJJ, meaning Swanson, Bridge City. These places actually have ESSA plans now and are moving real things forward. We have good curriculum within LSD and LSVI. We're launching the Career and Technical Initiative you saw yesterday at LSD in partnership with Thrive. So, you know, there are really positive things happening, and just to be candid with you, my biggest concern is that as you have administrative turnover, those things get lost in the shuffle. You know, I think we'll have to manage all that too, and I'll keep you abreast. I'm glad Ms. Holloway raised it, just so that we can. It's a good flag to me to make sure that you all are quite close to that process.
The next item.
Dr. Jones. Superintendent White, I'd like for you to talk a little bit about the $23.5 million that we approved yesterday in federal funds and the types of plans that we received from school systems, and just maybe an overview of what you see happening, what might be the most exciting that we should be paying attention to in the next year.
Yeah, it's $23 million in Title I and then an additional $17 million in other federal funds. This is the result of the unified application process for ESSA. Most funds went to curriculum and to professional development almost entirely. What's exciting is that whereas you'll recall last year we had a bunch of plans that weren't initially approved, this year virtually every plan was approved, and all but 3 schools in the state were funded to do their work. You know, I think there are different strategies at place in place in different places. The urban districts are largely focused on these zone strategies, the big urban districts that have multiple schools on the list. There are a lot of districts that are continuing to use the TAP model, which we're excited about. But everybody is using the same principles of a good curriculum and well-trained teachers as the essence of their plan. What we're going to be doing then, if you're able to come to the Teacher Leader Summit, every single principal of every one of those schools is going to go through what we're calling the principal track at the Teacher Leader Summit and gain the nuts and bolts as to what's in their ESSA plan and get trained on every aspect of their ESSA plan. We've certainly, one weakness right now is that there's too much of a disconnect between school leaders and the knowledge of what's actually in their plan. And so we're going to, over the course of the year, really try to focus on school leaders learning the details of what's in their plan and being able to support it.
All right, any other board members have a comment or a question before we move to the next item? All right, thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is report from members on task forces, council appointments, and statutory task forces.
Any board member have a report to make? Mr. Garvey?
Yes, is this a place in the agenda where we could have a discussion of the MFP?
Yes, I plan on making some comments, but if you want to preface it first, it's fine with me.
I guess I'd like to ask the superintendent what his recommendation would be regarding the timing of a special called meeting, with the goal of getting as close as possible to our original request or requested amount.
I'd probably have to defer to the chairman to advise on that. That's a strategic decision that I know BESE needs to make.
And I'm ready to do that now, if you like, Mr. Garvey? Or?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay.
I think we're all anxious to figure out the best way to get as close as possible to what we originally asked.
I'm not sure I can do the best way possible, but I'm going to tell you what my feelings and responses were as a result of what happened yesterday. I was a little bit disappointed with the way that BESE was dealt with at the hearing yesterday, because I feel that it was a discussion of BESE's MFP, and I admire the job that Superintendent White did a fantastic job in responding to the questions coming from the legislature and so forth. But I also felt that I should have been at the table, in fact put in a card to be at the table, and I don't know whether it was a misunderstanding or what, but in any case, this is BESE's MFP, and so I'm concerned. So I stayed up last night and I actually I looked up, it was 934 words when I got through of comments I planned to make today, and I wanted to tread very carefully, but I've since decided 934 words is too too long, and I'm not going to take that much time, so I'm just going to say this. This is different from any other BESE MFP year than I've ever dealt with, and I've been coming here as a superintendent and as a department employee even for 3 years. So I came as a superintendent for about 15 years and as president of the Superintendent's Association and so forth. And most years, things were pretty clear cut. We got information, guidance before the MFP went forward, and we got guidance while the MFP was in the legislature as to what was likely to happen. And most years we were in the position of telling superintendents there's no money, it's unrealistic to expect that districts are going to get any additional monies and so forth. This year is not that way. And what happened yesterday with the return is fine. I mean, that's a normal process. In fact, to be honest, I can't think of a year that it hasn't been returned to BESE, and maybe there's been some, but most years we've responded to guidance. But I will say that as president of the board, I don't think it's appropriate for us to have a knee-jerk quick reaction and to turn it around and get it back, because we need to appropriately consider. We thought we sent a good one over in the first place, and whether or not we want to make any change to it is a discussion that the board's going to have to take, and I want to allow for appropriate input. So my current plan, unless the board objects to it and wants to do it a different way, my current plan is to ask to schedule a special call meeting sometime around the end of the first week or so of May, which is not quite as quickly as the House Ed might want, but it is reflective of the fact that many of the districts are out on spring break this next week or so. The earliest availability to get this room, for example, because I feel certainly it's going to be a room that's going to need a lot of public input. I received over 50 emails before I got here this morning, and I'm sure I see some of you nodding your heads. I think you did too. And so I don't think that this is a decision that will be made in a vacuum, and I don't think it's a decision that needs to be made quickly. While the legislature might want us to get it back that fast, I think we owe it to the school districts, we owe it to the teachers, we owe it to the School Boards Association, we owe it to all the stakeholders in the process to be deliberative in the process and to make sure that what we send over appropriately fills BESE's constitutional role. Not the legislature's constitutional role, but BESE's. And I've heard a lot of discussion here about everybody wants credit for the teacher's pay raise, and that's true. But nobody wants credit for killing it. And I can say this safely. I don't see any way that BESE could be held responsible for killing a teacher pay raise, because we are on record as supporting it, but we're also on record at this point as supporting an appropriate amount of money for the local districts to be able to implement it and sustain it. And so I'm not going to attempt to predict where any board member is on the discussion. I just think it's safe to say that all of us want the process to go as it should. So at this point, barring any objection or a substitute action from the board, I will contact the board sometime in the next few days when it's clear, but look, somewhere around the first or second week of May would be the appropriate time for us to revisit it. Yes, ma'am. You're going to have to speak up. And you might try your microphone too. Is she going to turn it for you?
She wants second week of May.
Second week of May? Okay. All right, well.
I would like for you to take in consideration what the timeline looks at the legislature before making any decisions about when we meet. So I understand there's multiple committees that will have to consider it, so please keep in mind the timeline at the legislature.
And I will. And to be honest, I think I'll be more respectful of the legislature's concern than they were of ours yesterday. But having said that, and I just couldn't resist not putting that out there. But the fact is, there are a lot of moving pieces to this. So, for example, there is another bill in the Senate side of the House by Senator Morrish that is exactly the same bill that we looked at in House Concurrent Resolution 1 yesterday. So I agree with you, Ms. Bofi. I'm going to try to be mindful of that, but I'm also going to set a no sooner than of around the first or second week of May. But I am open to any motion from any board member that wants to direct it earlier. Going once, going twice, sold. So as of now, we're going to be looking at somewhere around the end of the first or second week of May. Next item, please.
Next item is committee reports, Academic Goals and Instructional Improvement Committee. Dr. Bofi.
On behalf of the Academic Goals and Instructional Improvement Committee, I move to approve motions 1 through 9, noting that motion 9 is a notice of intent.
I have a second to the motion. Ms. Boche. Any discussion? No discussion. Any objection to the motion? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Are we done with that?
Yes.
Okay, next item, Administration and Finance, Mr. Davis.
On behalf of the Administration and Finance Committee, I move to approve motions 1 through 31.
Do I have a second? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Holloway, I think, raised her hand. Okay. I had to leave yesterday during this particular committee. Mr. White, can you come back for a minute, please?
While he's coming back, I'd like to recuse from motions 24 and 27.
Okay.
I'd like to recuse motion 24, please.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question.
Recusal to motion 17, 24, 25, 26.
All right. Are we getting all these recusals? We got them all. Okay.
Got mine too.
I got that was recusals by, once again, you got all of them. Okay. Never mind. Okay. I was not here for the committee meeting yesterday and on the contracts, and I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just asking for my own edification. There were a lot of contracts on there that one I remember was to a company called Anlar in Virginia for, I don't know, several $100,000 to do something about leadership with child care providers. And it jogged a question in my mind. And would you give us the process? I know these are not competitive bids, the RFPs and who evaluates and so forth. How, you know, I get a little concerned that there may be opportunities for companies in Louisiana to get those or get involved in those, but that they may not know how or what. So could you go over that?
We do not run the contracting process. There are prescribed very specific pieces in the law that are done by the Office of Contracts and Procurement and the Division of Administration. Those entities, there's a very prescribed process. At every stage of the process, there is oversight, and the ultimate body that's I sign off on a contract, you approve a contract, but none of that can go forward unless the Office of Contracts and Procurement says, early, the process is good, B, the terms of the contract are good, and at the end, your vote sends it to them for their ultimate approval as well. So we in fact not only cannot express preferences for Louisiana-based companies, we cannot express preferences in virtually any manner other than what's in the terms of the contract.
Who evaluates? Is it a rubric you use, or who evaluates the?
On every contract, when the RFP goes out, the RFP has a scoring system. That scoring system is approved by the Office of Contracts and Procurement. There's a committee that's set up that is not attached to my office. That committee goes through the decision-making process, and that committee is approved by the Office of Contracts and Procurement. They score the rubrics using the rubric. They then send the recommendation to my office, which forwards it to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Garvey.
I have a question. You said that the committee that evaluates the RFP responses is not attached to your office. Does that mean that there are no employees from the Department of Education on that committee?
Oh, sure. I mean, there are times when the experts are people who work for the Department of Education. What I mean is that I, an assistant superintendent, Bridget, the chief operating officer, like we wouldn't sit on those committees. These are potentially subject area experts, but they're not the senior most people within the organization. And also, Mr. Garvey, it's typically a mix of people from within and without the agency. Occasionally, it's people exclusively within the state's employment, but it's not typically just state education agencies.
Okay. Thank you. That makes me feel a lot better as I went through them. I was trying to figure out what our actual process for doing that was, and I knew it wasn't competitive bidding. I knew it wasn't low bidder. So.
It is competitive bidding, but it's competitive bidding based on a scoring system where price is one factor, but isn't necessarily the lead factor. And those factors and how they're weighted need to be approved by the Office of Contracts and Procurement.
Okay, thank you. That makes me feel a lot better. Any other board members have any questions or item or with that particular item? All right, next item, please. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. We didn't take it through, did we?
No.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, and we have recusals. Is there any other comment or question? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Next item, Educator Effectiveness Committee, Ms. Holloway.
On behalf of the Educator Effectiveness Committee, I move to approve motions 1 through 10, noting that motions 7, 8, and 9 are notices of intent.
Okay, may we have a second? I'm going to do Mr. Rock this time. I'm going to start assigning y'all second roles before the meeting starts. So that okay. Any discussion of the item? Any objection to the motion? Motion, hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
Next item, School Innovation and Turnaround Committee, Ms. Kara Jones.
On behalf of the School Innovation Turnaround Committee, I move to approve motions 1 through 3.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second by Dr. Bofi, and we have a whole bunch of comment cards, so we're going to start those. And we did this specifically so you couldn't make your presentation, Dr. Bofi.
I made my presentation, sir.
All right.
Want to do a 3-minute?
Yeah, we're going to do a 3-minute time limit on these. Mr. Billy Washington from Smothers Academy, come to the table, please. Walter Sims from Smothers. Actually, are all of these from Smothers? Mm-hmm. Okay. This is considered a group type thing, so I would like for you to pick a representative who will speak for the group as a whole, and I will give you 5 minutes for the group as a whole. I think I can do that. Yeah. Okay. So since all of these are, so I'm going to.
There's one extra. I'm sorry, Ms. Vandy.
Okay. All right. We'll do that one separately. All right. So would you select your representative, and we'll give you 5 minutes. Now, let me advise you. Five minutes.
Good, so maybe try that one.
Yeah, 5 minutes is a long time. I convinced my wife to marry me 35 years ago in 5 minutes. A decision she regretted for 35 years, I can assure you. Yeah. Okay. Please state your name and.
Put the mic on, sir.
There's a little green, yeah, a little button there. Does it turn green for you?
Just one. Yes, it's on now.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Victor Sims. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a board-approved social work supervisor. My two grandchildren attend this particular academy, Smothers Academy, and they have had fabulous results. One of my grandsons, unfortunately, had a great deal of domestic issues with his parents. That's why my wife and I are now their guardians. And during that time, my grandson developed a great deal of behavioral difficulties. In his nursery school, the owner called us one evening to tell us if he showed up at the school, her staff had threatened to quit. In the previous schools he attended after that, for both pre-K and kindergarten, we were receiving at least 3 to 4 phone calls a week about his behavior. At least 2 of those calls were to come to pick him up because his behavior was so out of control. They weren't able to manage it. Halfway through one of those school years, we had heard about Smothers Academy. and they're focused on education and discipline. So we enrolled him in that January, which was 2.5 years ago. We have not received a phone call on behavioral difficulties. That does not mean he had not had difficulties, but they had the ability to manage those difficulties. I also, for a period of time, worked for the Jefferson Parish FINS program, going into different Jefferson Parish schools to provide therapeutic services to some of those students. And what I witnessed was an inability to control behavioral issues based upon the rules and regulations that the schools were under. But it was very difficult. My heart went out to some of the teachers because they really struggled, but their inability to manage the behavior really reduced the ability to provide effective education. Smothers Academy, we haven't had that problem. And the individuals, if the school is determined to be closed, to put these students back into a system that is proven ineffective in its ability to manage their behavior, I feel is subjecting them to a very extremely difficult future. So this school is necessary. It has benefited us professionally. Despite my skills as a therapist, and I have an individual program, plus I have an MHR where we go out to work with some of the students. We have a difficult time getting into some of the schools, and I can understand that they have rules and regulations. That's not a problem. But the inability to provide that type of mental health services to some of these students prevents them from being able to get the quality education that we as a society need. And this school is able to provide that. They provide it, and one of the issues that I really find that is a powerful message for Smothers is the availability of males to educate the children, not just in the classroom, but in the hallways, to teach them appropriate social behavior, teach them appropriate behavior for maybe tying their tie appropriately, to holding doors open. So our society as a whole, I feel, is benefited by this level of education. And to consider shutting this school down is, putting those students back into a system that is proven ineffective. The utilization of detentions and suspensions, I have seen students be sent home. You have a troubled student, a troubled human being, who now is not in an educational environment based upon their inability to manage their behavior. And a lot of these behavior difficulties have come from the homes that they're in. You know, if they're not receiving a proper education, proper discipline teaching, proper socialization issues, if they're witnessing the violence that my grandson's witnessed, going to a school that doesn't have the ability to manage these issues is detrimental to them. This school provides that level of care. This school teaches them, again, not just in the classroom, but in the hallways, in the schoolyard, appropriate behavior, how to treat their fellow human beings with decency and dignity. That's what I think is very vital for this particular institution. And for it to be closed in any way, shape, or form, I feel in the long run will be detrimental to our society as a whole. Because the one thing about the society that we live in that you all know of, you all at one time were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Your education assisted you in performing the service that you perform now. These are the children that's going to one day take the places of every elected official, every official that we have within our society. To deprive them of learning appropriate social behavior, education, discipline is going to damage not just them, but us as a whole. And I hope I haven't used up my time.
Yes, sir, you have it, and thank you. But before you leave the table and to the others in the audience, and I'm going to read all your names into the record, by the way, so that it is noted here. What's before BESE today is not the revocation. What's before BESE today is to receive the report, which was given yesterday,
yes,
and to direct the superintendent to begin the revocation proceedings. Now, what that is a hearing. And all of the things that you just said and all of the opportunity for all of you to speak comes at that hearing, which is not run by BESE. I'm trying to remember the exact process, but as I remember,
we'll have a chairperson.
There'll be a specific chairperson. You'll have an opportunity to to speak, all of you, as many of you as want to speak, and you will have an opportunity to tell that side of the story. But I want to make it clear to the public as well, though, that many of the allegations that came in this report were not allegations about school issues and students per se. They were issues about other rules and regulation violations that are a requirement and a part of charter school law and BESE rules and regulations. So, but you'll hear all that at that hearing, and they'll conduct the hearing, and then at the end of that hearing, they'll make a decision and they'll make a recommendation to BESE.
Okay. We've been informed of some of those violations, and we've also been informed that the school has taken great steps to rectify each one of those issues. So that will be taken into consideration.
That will be what will be dealt with at the hearing, and there will be an opportunity for them to present their side of the issue and the steps they've taken to correct that and so forth. And then out of that hearing will come a recommendation to BESE, and then we'll deal with it. And ultimately at BESE, you'll probably get an opportunity to speak again at BESE if it's still there. So I don't want you to get the impression that you're not going to be allowed the opportunity to speak. I just didn't see the point in doing it 3 more times.
I got you.
When you only need to do it 2. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Jones,
Yes.
I have a question, please, before you leave, sir. Your faculty, in terms of male and female faculty, you mentioned that you had a lot of gentlemen that worked there. Is there an equal? Give me an idea of that.
I'm not a faculty member. I'm a parent.
Okay. You said you were a social worker?
Yes, I am a social worker.
Oh, I thought you worked there.
No, I'm not working there. I work in my own agency.
Okay. But you're talking about your grandchildren?
Yes.
Okay. Can someone answer that question, though, about?
Well, we could do that, but essentially what we would be doing is opening the hearing. I would strongly recommend that we let the hearing process take care, and then come back to us again. All right, I'm going to read in the names of the other people that are here to make sure they're in the record. And that was Victor Sims was the first one. Patrice Sims, I assume she might be some kin to you.
Yeah. Same situation.
Wonder how I figured that out.
But it took me a little longer than 5 minutes.
Took you longer than 5 minutes? And she's probably happier too. So, Cheyenne Weber, Jada Bolden, Bobby Tenner, Christy DeSoto, excuse me, Shauna Jones, Curita Abbott, Bethany Burns, Tammy Crump, Willette Menard Simon, Billy Washington, and Laotis Dennis, who did not wish to speak but isn't opposing the recommendation, and Melvin Clayton, who is also did not wish to speak but is opposing the recommendation, and LaRogers Washington, same, that opposes but did not wish to speak. Arthur Clayton Sr. Opposes but did not wish to speak. James Burns, who opposes but does not wish to speak. And I believe that got it. Did I miss any of you? All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming, and once again, you'll have that opportunity at the right time. Thank you. I have one other card to speak on 6.4. Ms. Sarah Vandergraaf representing.
She waves.
She waved?
She waves.
Okay. Do you still wish to support? Okay. She is supporting the recommendation and does not wish to speak. Any others? Any discussion by board members or anything? Okay, hearing none. That anybody opposed to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
That concludes your agenda.
Thank you.